Welcome back to Arcadian Insight. Today is Tuesday, August 6th, 2019, and it's episode number 27. I am Matt Franceschi, and joining me today I have Adam Wolf, Ben Bachman, Dave Mead, and Josh McNeil. Trending news today, we're going to talk about Ninja making his official announcement to switch over to Mixer. Epic Games has issued an official statement announcing the disturbing trend of harassment towards its partners. And Heroes of the Storm releases a new champion, Qhira. Main topic today is going to be, is the future of sports digital? This is a conversation I'm actually super excited about. I think it's going to be an awesome conversation. And us talking about the Fortnite World Cup last week actually got me really excited to do this one. But to start, just to give some facts to, I think, just begin this conversation, Twitch already has an average of over 5 million active viewers that watch 2 hours of content every day. This ranks the platform higher than primetime cable networks such as CNN. The global esports audience is projected to double over the next 3 years from 300 million to 600 million, with over 2 billion people having some sort of idea of what esports are, which is absolutely insane. And with the Fortnite World Cup just ending, we just saw $30 million get paid out in prize money for one tournament. So with all of these stats in mind, and I think like the industry and the trend obviously rising, what are your thoughts on where esports stands currently at this point in time, and how have you seen it grow throughout the years from its early inception?
So esports right now, to me, I think it has a lot of room for growth still. I think we're obviously still in its infancy. I'm looking forward, really optimistic for what the next few years here are going to look like for esports in general. But I know I like to compare it back to traditional sports a lot of times, and their presentation for even like an NHL or NFL football game. When you sit down to watch something like that, it is an experience. Even though I think most of us right now are drawn more towards the esports scene. I think in the next few years, if they can kind of like up their presentation, their viewership like format, something that just increasingly makes it easier for not even just people that already play the games to understand what's going on, but for a more general audience to understand what's going on. You can just drop in and watch. I think modern day traditional sports do a really good job of that. I think that's where esports needs to make some progress. I think they're kind of have started kind of on the back foot on that, but obviously with more money being injected into esports, we'll probably see that kind of grow as time goes on here. A better presentation.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that we've seen, we talked about Riot Games coming out with that Pro View for League of Legends, and I think that was kind of like that initial step through the door where they said, okay, like we know that our presentation and our viewership potential, which just to go against like what I'm saying, I think that League actually has the best presentation of any of the games by far. Mm-hmm. They do a really good job, but even so, I think that Riot recognizes that for the viewer, it's still not great unless you really know what's going on. To your point, Adam, the game's just too complex if you don't play. Where, even somebody that's watching football can kind of have an idea of I think at least what's going on. And that just might be because football has just been mainstream for the past like 60 years.
Right.
And it probably does have something to do with that. But the game is simpler too.
That's true. I think I don't know, one thing in particular that I'd like to point to as far as like complexity of the game. You're right there that I would say League of Legends just in particular is probably a little bit more complex than like an NFL football game or even like a soccer game in that sense, because it's really not always apparent who is winning at any given time. There's no like, even depending on like where they're at on the map and things like that, that's way less relevant compared to like traditional sports. That kind of doesn't translate very well right now. So I guess they're going to have to work on ways to, like adaptations. I think when you watch a football game, it's pretty clear, like when they're on like the 20-yard line and you can see like the colored end zone coming up, like, like that's where they need to be. Like that's the goal line. That's where we go to win the game. Like even in a game like League of Legends, right, it isn't always well defined because you can essentially win the game in so many, that can occur in so many different areas of the playing field, I should say. So being able to distinguish that and make it apparent might be something they need to work on in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you had said before, Wolf, it's still growing, and that's one of the things that's hindering its growth is not everybody can join in because there's not transparency on what's going on. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to be involved either in the genre or in the actual particular game that's being played. I think across genre, and in a genre like MOBA, if you play Dota, you could probably watch the league and say, oh, I know what the hell's going on, for the most part. Not so much from League to Dota though, because it gets really complex. But and that's one of the things that's hindering it from growth. But that as more people play games, and as viewership of on these platforms like Twitch and now Mixer maybe increase, and people know the rules of these games and how they're played and the teams and the players, then it'll it's just like football. Football has been around for fucking, how many years? Mm-hmm. So, or basketball or baseball, everybody knows, you're a little kid, you're like indoctrinated and to know how to play. Even kids who are like nerdy or like don't want to play sports or whatever, like they still know how to play fucking baseball, for the most part, or at least know how to swing a bat and to run to the base or whatever.
Right.
And it seems like there are some pushes now for esports to get into some high school, like, I want to say curriculum, not curriculum, but just like some after school activities or a team format, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's been there since even when we were in high school with the Super Smash Brothers after school. It wasn't a big thing, but
the basement games.
Well,
we actually had it at the high school. We actually.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, at the high school they had. It was just like an intramural. Like there's probably like what 30, maybe 40 kids or something like that. Maybe exaggerating.
It was a club, if you would call it anything. It wasn't anything that had a competitive aspect to it.
Yeah.
I think just to talk about like where esports is currently versus where it was in the past, I think that a big difference for me that I've just made this mental switch. But I've always felt that esports was still in its infancy, and I think that's due to the lack of presentation. And I think it's due to it not being very mainstream. I think there's other factors too. I'd have to really put a ton of thought into it to list them all out, but I think that the Fortnite World Cup was the first thing that, and I think that because of the prize pool, but it really made me think like, holy shit, like this thing is actually like starting to gain a little bit of traction. Like esports, like I feel like that was its first step into the mainstream. Or at least for me, where I was a little bit blown away and said, okay, this thing like is actually real. Like, this thing has legs and like it can really move forward.
Yeah, for me, how I've seen it grow is, well, one, like there's just a lot more people that can like literally make a living off of video games now than ever before. Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean? There's so many streamers and content creators that literally make, like, that's what they do. They make a living and they like support themselves, and a lot of them, do really well, and they have really nice houses and all that kind of jazz. And then the other thing for me too was just like, like Good Morning America or some stupid morning news show that everybody watches. It's just, you know what I mean? People just have it on TV. Like my girlfriend was watching it the other morning. We were getting ready for work, and they were talking about the Fortnite World Cup. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty significant that it's making it to those channels where a lot of people are, going to see it and hear about it and start to like, okay, what is this? What's going on? So once it started to get into those like mainstream news outlets that everybody watches, not just like some gaming website or Twitch or something, that to me means that the exposure just increases like exponentially when it's on that kind of thing, on that kind of, like.
Yep.
For people
just to kind of piggyback on that, and this is a little bit different. It's more of like a personal story, but I was just at my cousin's wedding this past weekend. It was lovely, if you'd like to know. But my uncle was in from Cleveland, and he has 3 daughters. I think they age like 14 to 18, the 3 of them. So, they're like teenagers. They're not like really young, but they're, I would say, like a generation below us. or like at like the tail end of our generation, but I would say that they're in like the other generation below us. But he was saying how when he was younger and would go on trips, like he would sometimes see celebrities if they would go out to California or something. Like one time he saw Jay Leno at a diner. He was very, very excited. And like the whole time that they were on vacation, him and his daughters, they were talking about like seeing these YouTube stars that he didn't know anything about. And not that they were looking for like Ninja or Doc. But I think that you're like, at least I'm seeing this shift from celebrities being on TV to being social influencers on digital platforms, whether that's esports or YouTube or whatever, or Instagram. But I think that that's really happening, and it's happening like super fast.
I don't like that.
You don't.
Some of these YouTubers are
Well,
Goombas, man.
I think it's good for everybody in general, though, right? I mean, I feel like there's obviously some hurdles to overcome to get yourself into like like TV broadcasting or on a show, like some level of fame that you have to have built up, originally before they'll even consider having you on something like that. But now, like, you can really just promote yourself, make your own brand, and put it out there on YouTube. Whether people like it, don't like it, like apparently you don't like a lot of them, Ben, but they can make a living and find people and become like famous.
The concern with that with me, and I mean it's the television, you find out that some of these older people that we thought had good morals and were upstanding people, then you find out through legalities that they're pieces of slime, women beaters or rapists or whatever, Yeah. Not in all instances, but it seems like in more and more when there's as we get older.
I agree. It does. It gives people like fucking Ice Poseidon like a platform to get popular and like make money. Which that guy's like, to steal your terminology, he's like head of the Goombas.
Yeah.
Watch me go eat at this restaurant.
Yeah. The main thing with me is like, I'm always thinking like when there's young people, and one of the reasons that it's important to me is because my role models, like pop role models, we'll say, like popular celebrities or musicians, they were like Goombas. So like there was a period of time where like I was a fucking Goomba. You know what I mean? So like I don't want Goombas out there on YouTube.
I'll be honest, I'm having trouble following you at this point.
Yeah. Can you explain to the viewers what a Goomba is?
A Goomba is, I mean, this is a video game podcast. It's the mushrooms in Mario. And they're easy. You take them out. They're Goombas.
How dare you assume they're mushrooms?
You just jump on them and they're done with. They don't have nothing to them.
So,
but what I'm trying to say is, I would rather see people talking about more serious shit but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that doesn't fucking sell. To young kids. They want to see partying stuff. They want to see people being stupid and stuff. So
I think it's nice that you get a little bit of that like corporatism out of it, at least for now. As this stuff goes more mainstream, you'll see like this will be like the new corporate culture. Like there will be brands that are like buying these people up. I think these talents up. You'll see them all like start to support one another, like whether they're on like the same team or network. And I actually think that you see this with the Ninja Mixer deal. With I don't really want to get into a ton right now because we're going to talk about it like in great length at the end of the show. But like what he got paid, and that Microsoft like as a platform was willing to purchase his rights for that amount of time is something we haven't seen before. And that reminded me a lot of like a big time celebrity or like a very corporate deal.
I think a good example of like a YouTuber selling it, if you guys are familiar with Smosh.
Yeah, I used to watch Smosh a lot when I was really young.
I think a lot of those guys actually regretted that decision in the end. At least a couple of them did too.
We just saw Sugar Pine 7 get bought by Rooster Teeth, and they were there for about a year and a half. And not that Rooster Teeth is like super corporate, but they are. I mean, they're a bigger organization now, and they've bought Funhouse and Cow Chop, and I think some other YouTube channels as well. And like, I think that they regretted that too.
Yeah, I remember watching crappy Red versus Blue episodes from those guys on YouTube. Look at them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like the natural evolution of how these things, once things become popular and they realize that through an individual who is popular or has a persona that appeals to people, they're gonna get gobbled up. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be like oligarchies for a period of time or whatever. Of these companies that are on YouTube. And I think that eventually, what would make sense is there's gonna have to be something that threatens YouTube's dominance.
I think everybody thought that was going to be Twitch when Amazon bought it, but Twitch didn't change at all. For the most part.
I actually was thinking the same thing, Ben, that there is definitely an opportunity in the market to take some of the popularity from YouTube. I think a lot of content creators are really unhappy.
You know what I mean? They
don't even pay you anymore, right? So
I mean, there's
what's the point of being there? Yeah. I mean, the audience is there, but if you're able to shift the audience, yeah, you can do anything. Yeah. But I really wanted to jump down into this next point of the conversation, and this is a talk between like esports and traditional sports, because I think this to me is like one of the most interesting topics that there are in the industry today. So by the year 2021, esports is projected to have 84 million viewers within the US alone. This ranks it higher than the MLB, the NBA, and the NHL. So it would only be behind the NFL, which is projected to have 141 million. So it would still be behind it by like a little shy of 60 million viewers, which is a pretty big number. But I already mentioned the growing tournament prize pools, but we have some other signs of esports' growing legitimacy, and this is kind of what Adam talked about as well. But we have Ninja being paid by Mixer, a really big contract. We have like really big money investors, I think, even like traditional sports athletes that are retired that are investing into this scene. And we also have like huge companies paying a lot of money for platforms like Amazon with Twitch and like Microsoft with Mixer. So the real question that I have is, do you think that esports is eventually going to overtake traditional sports in viewership and popularity? If you do, when do you think this is going to happen? And if it is going to happen, is there always going to be a place for traditional sports, or will it eventually just go away?
I think one of the interesting things with this, and this isn't a huge influence on, like they're always going to be popular, but it isn't a huge influence on it. But one of the things that seems that has happened in a similar time frame is the contact sports have lost popularity due to, and I know this is a little off topic, but it's something that just popped in my head. Is like I hear people saying all the time, "I'm not going to let my kid play football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let my kid."
Great point.
I'm not going to let my kid be a boxer or a fighter, because the data on that shit is startling. I mean, like these why these people are crazy. You know what I mean? It's because they put a helmet on and bash their heads. So I know that's a little bit, but that's one of the other things that is affecting contact sports. I think with in the case of video games, I think that there will always be a place for traditional sports because the physical aspect is appealing to parents to get their kids moving and be healthy. But I don't know. I think it'll take a different role. It won't be as much as an enterprise where it's so much money being made, because that was a form of entertainment. And I truly believe that through time, esports is going to take that over because it's just a safer bet, really. You know what I mean? Like for the players, for people experiencing it, they don't have to leave to go to the big fucking stadium. They just sit in their house and watch from their computer or their TV or their tablet. And I know they can do that now with traditional sports, and I know that they can also go to the esports arena and watch the.
But it feels a little different.
Yeah,
I agree.
It feels like it's a little bit more understandable to be. I don't know. Maybe it's just my personal feelings.
No, the traditional sports, the product was made for live viewership at the arena. For sure. But esports, the product was made for you to watch at your computer. But you can go to the arena if you feel like it. But you still watch the screen. Yeah. I think that's the difference. I mean, that's why it feels better.
It's just for the atmosphere.
Yep.
Well, there's something else I want to bring up, but it could be a little bit later. I'll remember.
So
Let me
another
write it down.
thing, like Ben, you were talking about, just that the comfort of being at home and watching the esports in general. One nice thing for viewership, I know you can essentially sit on your couch and watch, NFL like all Sunday if you want to, but that Twitch chat and stuff like that, the YouTube chat on any kind of streaming event, I personally don't care for it, but people go crazy for that. Like it's like that interactive kind of like community building aspect of it that kind of takes, as far as presentation is concerned, I think that's the one area where esports has a leg up on anything traditional sports is doing right now. Is it engages the audience. Really they're just engaging on their own. There really is no like concerted effort to communicate with everybody in the Twitch chat and stuff like that, but just the fact that you're able to do that and interact with other people and cheer and chant, that kind of thing, it's pretty cool.
Sports bars built into the system.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right, there you go.
I was gonna say when we were talking about viewership, that like Blizzard is already taking advantage of selling stuff like virtual tickets. I mean, even if it's not an event, like a competitive event, they're still selling virtual tickets for cons.
Yeah, for BlizzCon,
yeah.
you can get a virtual ticket and like watch all the coverage that you couldn't see otherwise, unless you were there, obviously. But there's a couple points I want to make too. I think one, esports will probably overtake traditional sports eventually, but I think it's going to take a while as like our parents and the older population kind of like, pass through. Yeah, like I was trying to find a nice way to say it, but yeah, that.
I'll help you.
And like as young, you know what I mean, as the younger generation starts to become, bigger and the main populace of the country, I think that will be the shift. Because like now, like there's a lot of kids that are on, you know what I mean? Like everybody's on an iPad or a computer or a telephone or something. They're always looking at YouTube or Twitch or something. And I think once the older generation kind of phases out and the newer generation starts coming up and, the younger generation rises, that's gonna be the shift
I agree.
from traditional to esports, virtual, whatever.
I got a couple things here.
Well, kids don't want to watch baseball.
Right.
I don't want to watch baseball. Adam and I just went to a baseball game. We had a box for a really good friend of ours' birthday. It was a great time. Seeing everybody. It was awesome. The game, terrible. I mean, it was awful. The product that you pay for is a joke. It's a joke, and I feel bad. I feel bad.
I look around at a baseball game sometimes, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? You know what I mean?
I think people just use it like as an excuse to go outside, but like you could just go out in your backyard for free and have a beer, and like it'd be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, my point is that if I don't want to do it, I know that somebody that's 14 doesn't want to do it.
Right.
And that trend, to Dave's point, is just going to just keep moving in that direction.
Right. And then another big thing too, I think, is there's a lot of people that like don't have cable anymore. Like more as time progresses, like people are cutting cable and just are streaming everything or pirating or whatever. So I think that's another thing that's going to happen, like as the younger generation starts to grow older and starts to take over, that's what we're used to and that's what we're going to gravitate to. So like there's the market's going to be more online, streaming based than cable provider fucking set top box bullshit, all that stuff.
Yeah, there's no like entry fee to this stuff too. I mean, as far as like Dave's point there, like streaming, you have an internet connection, you have YouTube, you have Twitch. You don't have to pay extra for that to watch like an esports competition in most cases. I can't think of anything that's been gated like that to anybody, but traditional sports, I mean, like hell, good luck trying to, get some pirated stream of that through your internet connection or something like that. Like you got to pay for that every week. They sell every single second of everything, like traditional sport wise, NFL, MLB, NBA, all of it.
And like think too, like streaming wise, like you don't need a giant fucking stadium that fits 60,000 people.
No, you don't.
You don't have that cost and the rent to do that and all the overhead that comes with that. That's all gone.
Yeah.
Like like leagues, sure they have like their arenas and stuff, but there's no chance in hell
Oh, yeah.
that it's costing them as much as a professional team as far as like overhead to run an arena and everything.
No. Right, smaller than most Walmarts.
Right. And like think about it too, like a lot of at least a lot of like competitive games and stuff, like the people are just like they're streaming the game, but like the people are at their own houses playing. Like, you know what I mean? They don't even have like a space that they're paying for.
Yeah, and I have a point I want to bring up, but Ben, you've been waiting for like 20 minutes, so why don't you go ahead?
Well, I got a lot here, boys.
Okay, let's go.
So
comfy.
one of the things that I was thinking about was, I don't think that traditional sports will go away. I think it'll be lesser, much lesser. But one of the things that's not going to go away is the physical. Like I was talking about, the physical contact sports, they have negative consequences to them that we're finding out through because we're able to scan brains and understand the consequences of bashing our head against shit. But there is negative things to the virtual games as well, which is a sedentary lifestyle. And there's also things that we haven't the data isn't out yet about our generation who's stuck to screens. What is the consequences of that to our brains? What is the consequences of that to us? And we're starting to see that in physically, people aren't working out, they're getting fat, or they're super skinny and unhealthy and they're not getting vitamin D, woof. And so
Yikes.
that's one of the other things is like, I think there will always be a place for traditional sports. I think that they're important, but they're going to take a different role. I think it's going to be more like less for money, as a like I said, an enterprise money maker, and more. I think that esports will slide in there and take the majority of that, and then sports will fall into the traditional like, yeah, we'll still have pro teams and everything, but it won't be such a big, the colleges won't be huge into it anymore, and it won't be like, I don't know. I just think that it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to coexist together. Because I think that's what it's going to come down to is like right now where, a lot of us are probably thinking like, I know we're all thinking like esports is going to blow this out of the water. I think that will happen eventually, but then I think it will slide into a different position where they will coexist and they'll both have their roles.
What do you think about virtual reality somewhat taking on the physical and athletic portions of traditional sports, like say in like 30 to 40 years?
Wow.
Maybe VR gets good enough to
Yeah,
where you're
fine.
actually like running on a belt or something and
I do
moving
have
your arms
that
and
already.
legs.
I saw that on Shark Tank.
I could see it. I
They
could
have
definitely
a thing
see it.
where you're on a treadmill thing and you're like hooked up in and you can move around. I mean, they didn't take it because they don't think the technology's there yet, and there's not a big enough population of people who want that yet.
Imagine watching a football game where like the people are actually moving and stuff, but it's like VR. Like, so you don't have like, you know what I mean? You don't have like the chance of physical injury and like destroying your brain are like
oh gosh,
greatly reduced.
Be
Like
interesting.
technology that's like 15 years out, 20 years
Oh
out.
yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
far
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
It's way down the road, but like it's something that we'll probably see in our lifetime.
Oh yeah, sir. I think so too. I think I want to see I'm gonna say it, man. I want to see the Mongoloids. I want to see them bash it.
The one thing I really wanted to bring up, and Dave, you and I have had this conversation before, but this is like one of the biggest factors for me in liking esports more than traditional, is that there's no referees.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times, especially in recent years, that I've been watching like a hockey playoff game or a football playoff game, and the refs have blown a big call, and they just ruin the game. And you don't get that shit in esports. And like, I don't even know if I want to get into this big like conspiracy thing on like why they're blowing the calls or whatever, because I could probably talk for 3 hours on it because it really pisses me off. But I'm just saying that factor isn't there, and I cannot stand that factor.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing with the virtual to physical is the rules are a lot more, we're in control of the rules a lot more. I mean, the game's set, you know what I mean? There's the only thing that's changes is the draft, you know what I mean? That changes things is the draft, and in some other games, the map or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
Josh, go ahead.
yeah.
Before I forget, I think that you guys haven't brought this up yet. I think a big thing is just the way you can spectate. Like Wolf was saying, you can interact in the chat. If you're watching a PUBG tournament, you can go in with the camera and really watch individual people. And their playback is much easier. You can create your own replays. You can watch replays things that you want to see again. I mean, I know you have DVR and stuff like that for TV, but it's just more accessible with video games, and it's literally just point and click with your mouse or your finger on the phone. It's just so easy for you to be. It just falls into that interactive thing. Even just for a viewer,
It's what Matt was saying there. I'm sorry, Ben. Like Matt was saying there with, like the referees, like it's that human element that the traditional sports kind of hang on to, kind of like dearly, and don't seem like they're going to, let go of anytime soon. I think like baseball is one of the bigger proponents of that. Like they just will not let go of, that human element. They won't let go to like replay, review, and things like that. But what you're talking about there, when, like what Ben said, when the rules are that clearly defined and we can manage them to that level, we can make sure that, it's always like something real interesting, and you can go in there and take a quick look at like the replay. You're not like blowing up, what the ref missed and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another. I'm glad that you brought that up, McNeil, because that's another thing that is definitely a huge difference is the rules that we can set, how we can view, obviously, because we're in a virtual world or a virtual game watching. You can control the camera views and everything like that, but it's mind blowing to me that we're talking about this, because I was just thinking, as little kids, could you ever imagine this? Like, how cool is life, man?
I mean, I was playing like Donkey Kong Country, and it was the best, but like, I didn't care. Like, I just wanted to play the game. It's
mind blowing.
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
It's really cool, and I'm glad that we're living through this. And it's also, there's so much opportunity, I feel like, like what we're doing right now, talk about it and try to, now I'm getting all like optimistic and shit, and try to make it something that's positive for people, and that so people can enjoy this broadly. And like we're talking about the barriers for entry, like we need to figure out, not we, but as a community and as the industry will say, we need to figure out how to bring those people in and have them enjoy these things too.
I think it's Google Stadia.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's nice to look at the non-believers now. I remember having arguments with my parents, especially in the prime time Halo 2 days when I was spending hours in front of the screen, but not so much now, where it was like an immature debate about what other things I should be doing with my time, like studying or whatever. But they're starting to realize, especially even my own parents, that like you're way more engaged in a game than you are watching TV, even a sports game. Your brain is just doing far more. You're way more in tune and focused on what's going on, rather than just zonked out in front of the TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a good point. And one thing that a lot of people ask Jordan Peterson a lot of questions. Obviously, I know he's kind of faded out in the pat, and like
I still listen to him all the time.
I mean, I do. I listen to him probably a couple times a month. But and I've read his 12 Rules for Life and Maps of Meaning. Watch his lectures on Maps of Meaning. But regardless, one of the things that he said, that's what he says about video games. The data's not out. Like people say, well, don't you? I remember one of the students said, oh, don't you think video games are a waste of time? He said, no. He said, we don't know what we're doing. The data's not out yet. Why do people love these things? You know what I mean? You're satiated, obviously. You're getting a satiation because you're achieving something in the virtual world or whatever, and you're accomplishing something, and it's fun. But like, one of the things is like, we don't know why we have developed these things and what we're doing while we're exploring these worlds and everything. You know what I mean? Like when you bring it down, it's I'm not articulating this correctly, but what I'm trying to say is like the data's not out on why this trend is happening. It's I guess just
there's just a trend.
Consumerism.
Well, there's just a trend. I mean, people like things that are new. So I think that that's always there, but there's a trend that like everything is just going digital. It's less cost. Our generation is used to it. Anybody below us is super used to it. I would say that people are almost starting to prefer to be in the digital world versus the physical, which is actually super scary and maybe not a good thing, but I think that that's true.
That's
especially for kids that are really young. Like I think that they're like kind of really hooked in. But I think that's what you're seeing. I just think that we've talked about this before. People get addicted to games, and we play games now still, and so do people that are older than us, because they're more fun than like almost anything else that you can do, especially something you can just stay in your house and do. Like, yeah, a week's trip to Italy for me would be more fun than playing video games, but I can't take a week's trip to Italy every week due to cost and work and stuff. So like video games like are just the best form of entertainment by far. I mean, it's not even close.
Mm-hmm. Well, then,
yeah,
you know,
but what I was trying to say was, I get the entertainment part, but why do we have people who are occupying these spaces, like in the virtual, these virtual spaces, like, and becoming obsessed with it? You know, I don't know. I like I said, I'm not articulating it correctly.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead,
Adam.
Oh, you know, like what Matt was saying, that just directly translates, you know, how much more fun it is to play a video game compared to anything else you could be doing. And, you know, that's got to speak right to esports popularity as well. It is, I think, more fun to watch an esports event than a traditional sporting event. I think it's more fun in most cases to play a video game than it is to play a traditional sport. And I think a lot of people probably feel that sentiment as well. It's a lot more like welcoming and inviting atmosphere, I think. Just in general, that barrier to entry is nowhere near as intimidating with that the like anonymity that you have to be online and playing a video game. You know, nobody knows who you are. They can't do anything about, you know, whether you're good or bad or in between. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, you can still enjoy yourself. There's something for you to be doing.
I have one more like big question to get to before we wrap, but I've been saving this one now that Dave's back. I've been saving this 15 minutes. But I think that people that don't bet on sports, and this kind of goes back to like the referees thing, but people that don't bet on sports don't understand how big of an impact that sports betting has on the popularity of sports. Yep. It almost like props up the entire system.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say it does, but like, goddamn, is it close?
It does. No, it absolutely does.
The amount of money that is transferred and made for people that win, but also for the organizations that are in on those betting situations. But what I wanted to say is that referees are something that I see as a tool that is used to influence some of the outcomes of those games and money transfers. And with esports, you don't have that right now. That factor isn't there. The game's outcome is the game's outcome. And from a betting standpoint, that's better. And that's why we started betting on League that one time, Dave, because it was cleaner. And I think that as it gets more popular, I mean, if I was like a big gambler, I would want to switch over. And if a lot of those, if a lot of those bettors switch over, you're just going to see it gain popularity faster.
Right. Well, and think about too, like not only betting, but like even like fantasy esports and shit. Like
Yeah, great point.
that people, you know what I mean? Like FanDuel, but for esports, which literally that is a thing. Like
Mhm.
obviously it's not that popular, but especially as betting becomes more mainstream and more, accepted because it's being legalized like in many states now,
Mhm.
that's something that is definitely gonna it's a whole nother enormous revenue stream that is generated.
Yeah. And why do people even
Whatever it
watch
is.
football? Do they like football or do they like playing fantasy football? I would say the latter.
Yeah, I agree. And like before sports betting, like now it's starting to be legalized and whatever, but like it was a huge underground market that was billions and billions of dollars. So it's just people have that nature. Like you want to bet on things and win money. Like tons of people do it, and it'll definitely come into esports. 100% guaranteed. It's too big of an industry not to have it.
Mhm.
That's a whole nother giant revenue stream for them as well.
Look at the success of Barstool
Yeah, right.
True.
as an example.
I think so. Just before we wrap, we've danced around this a little bit and touched on it, but the last real question I have is that I think we can all agree that esports is on a very quick trend and a very quick rise up to the top, and is eventually going to surpass traditional. It's really just a question of when. But I feel like it's still kind of thought of as a joke in the mainstream, even though we just saw this Fortnite World Cup. And my big question is, when are we going to see people start to recognize this as a legitimate industry and profession?
I think it's starting to shift already because like they're you know what I mean, all these teenagers are playing these games. Their parents are like, stop wasting your time playing video games. Like even my parents have said that before, and I'm sure yours have too. Like if you did something else with your time, you could be, the best whatever and make money
Mhm.
or whatever. But now like there's parents realizing like there's like 16-year-old kids that are winning thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions even in the Fortnite World Cup by playing video games. And like what you know what I mean, now that people can actually start winning money, like money is like the universal language, right? Like parents understand that. They don't give a shit what, you know what I mean? If you're pulling in $3 million, people are going to start taking it seriously.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, I get to play the most fun thing in the world, and I get to make $3 million in a tournament.
right.
Yeah, where do I sign up?
That's like I said,
For
I was
me,
doing it for fun.
yeah, for me, as there's more financial compensation and more opportunities to make money or win money regarding esports and streaming and all that stuff, the more that happens and the more money that is available for people to get a cut of the pie, that's people will accept it more as more money is able to be generated by the people that are participating. And I think we're already on that path. Like it's already like the prize pools are starting to get significant. Fortnite League, and it's only going to grow if the viewers grow and all that stuff.
Yeah, but the thing for me is like I, I don't know if that's sustainable. Like I don't think that's sustainable because everybody can play a video game. Not everybody can become a professional football player.
Yeah, but anybody can play football. They just can't be a professional football player.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're talking about the money aspect of it, and like people, that's the driver for them to make money. Like that's the driver for some people to play. They want to be an NBA basketball player. You know what I mean? Like and make a bunch of money. So, I just think that everybody can play a video game, and I know that not everybody can reach the level of like Bugga or
Sure.
whatever the hell his name is.
Well, Ben, but just like thinking about not to like completely counterpoint you, but I think right now what you're seeing with streaming, I think there's actually more outlets for kids to make money in video games than there are in sports.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you can't be a professional esports player. Well, you can still stream and make a ton of money. With football, what are you going to do? Go play in like the Canadian Football League? Or, like there, it's just not there.
I just think that that's a good point and that it's true, but at the same time, like if Dave's saying if everybody's like, oh, I want to play, I want to be the next esports player who's going to win 30 million. Like, do you know how many people are going to be lining up for that?
Yeah, right. I'm not saying everybody's going to do it, but like the fact that there is a way to make money motivates people.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah,
20
and there's going to be a lot of
years
people
ago,
wasting their time and
But there is now, Ben. Think of how many kids play basketball for 20 years, and they get nothing out of it.
They
Right.
get a
Except
free college degree.
beat up. Well, they get like beat up knees.
Free
Yeah.
college degree.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people getting free
Well,
college
no,
degrees.
no, actually, yeah, there isn't. But and through the esports route, there's going to be kids getting.
Yeah,
free
it'll
college
be really
Potentially.
similar. I think right now, I think you're going to see a lot of people pursuing this avenue, thinking they can be the best, be top streamer, be a top esports player, and things like that. And it's probably more accessible, I would say, than being like a professional athlete. For like the majority of people, I think this is a much more realistic.
Yeah, that's what
comparatively. It's probably more realistic that you're going to be a top esports player than
and what I'm trying to say is
top-level
I'm
athlete.
basically just what I'm doing is bitching about the fact that like so many people waste their time and get dispossessed
right
because
Sure.
they
Sure. I think that's fair, but I mean they're going to put their time into something, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Or they can put their time into being a scientist. And
yeah. Well, I mean that's just
my major
That's
point
gonna
is like
happen.
my major point is like 20 years ago. If you played a lot of video games, you probably like no one was making anything from it. You were just good at it, and people like was like, "Wow, this guy's really good," but like you weren't really making that much money. Now, like there's a legitimate way to like provide for yourself, which is it's comparable to professional sports, and that's all I'm saying is like there is a chance now that you can make lots of money. Not of course, not everybody's going to do it, but like that, it's realistic. Like you can make money now.
Well, let's talk about the top streamer who just made a lot of money. Ninja just made the official announcement that he's going to be leaving Twitch to stream exclusively on Mixer, which I think came as a surprise to a lot of people. For some context on the size and popularity of these platforms, Twitch currently has 72% of the market share, while Mixer has 3%. There have been some unconfirmed rumblings that Microsoft paid Ninja somewhere from $30 million to $50 million over a number of years for this exclusivity deal. If this is true, this is the first esports contract that comes close to mirroring that of professional athletes. There are also rumors that Mixer might have made this move due to Halo Infinite being on the horizon, and that Ninja got his start playing Halo, so they could advertise their biggest streamer on their biggest platform playing their biggest game. I could see it. What are your thoughts on the deal? It's pretty crazy. I think it's super exciting personally, but
what are the biggest NHL deals that those guys get? I mean, that's like double or triple what some of those guys get. Like, what was Marc-Andre Fleury's for the Penguins that year? It was like $7 million over 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, they're right. It's
That's
right in
way
line
more.
per year.
per year,
He gets $7 million per year.
and
Wow.
that's this Mixer deal is probably really comparable to something like that. So he's essentially making like elite level money for like a hockey player. Probably not baseball money or football money, but it's close. Which is insane. It's really insane. And honestly, I think it's going to do a lot of good. It seems like a lot of people were kind of disgruntled with Twitch at the moment. I don't think Ninja was particularly one of those people. I don't think it necessarily affected him in any facet. But if you can make somebody that's going to directly compete with Twitch, and I think Ninja is a step in the right direction towards being able to compete with Twitch, signing somebody like that, it's only going to make both platforms better, more, I don't know, accessible, more friendly, more fair. I think there's a lot of topics that you could probably hit on there with Twitch not being, I don't know, equal outcome kind of company.
I think it's going to create competition for sure, which is always a good thing. But yeah, what you're saying, everybody's being disgruntled with Twitch. I think in particular, what's really brought this to light is this whole Alinity thing that we talked about. And I know that we said that we were kind of in disagreement with them like dropping her altogether. But I think there were a lot of people now, a week later, 2 weeks later, that were angry because of just the disciplinary arm of Twitch. I think a lot of people feel is unfair and caters to
people
Yeah.
make the money.
I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, right.
Even-
It's not, they don't dish out equal punishments. It's a bias. Like they're biased in how they deal with the things. And I
Even
don't-
among
Yeah, well, they have
genders,
their
you know?
best interests in
Oh yeah, sure,
in
right,
mind,
right.
I
just
think
like any of these large companies.
You know what else I've seen people saying is that they and I'm not in the streaming community. I don't stream. So I don't even know if I don't even want to say that I really understand where people are coming from, but I've seen a lot of people saying that they like don't care what Ninja is doing. Like they'd be like, "Oh, I don't watch him anyway. I don't really care what he's doing or how much money he's making." And like I saw that and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like that's your dream. Like you definitely care what he's doing. You might not like him or you might not like care personally what he's doing, but you definitely care about this deal.
Yeah, if you're like if you're serious about video games and esports and like its growth and everything, you absolutely care about it because it's huge. It's a big fucking deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that much money, that's a lot of money, and that's a big thing.
Yeah, this kind of falls in the category of not like esports for me. I know we didn't, it wasn't classified as esports, but this falls more just like the entertainment. Like it's like an actor, like for like a TV show or a popular TV show or something like that. Like
Yeah,
I don't
I
really
agree.
think it's not, doesn't really, because he's exceptional at Fortnite from what I know, but like obviously he's not good enough to beat Bugga or even get in the same tournament as Bugaboo.
Yeah, your boy. That's true. No, that's a good point, Ben.
Mm-hmm. I think
He sells his personality, right? Yeah, it's not the skill. It's more like his brand.
And I also think that one of the things was what I wish we had some stats on Ninja. When did he start streaming?
long
And-
time. He was a pro Halo player before he started
Pro Halo
streaming.
player. It seems like a lot of these guys who are super popular, like Dr. Disrespect stuff, it seems like they've been involved in this for a while. Like there's been a compounding effect to their popularity and everything like that. Like
It seems to me like they've had time to refine their craft.
I mean, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
You know, when they say something or they do something on stream, it's very like when I watch Doc, it seems like he's coming off the cuff. He's not. He works with people like in production and they have these things ready to go.
Yeah.
They talk and they're like, "Okay, like what do you think if we try this in 3 weeks?" And they're like, "Okay, that's a good idea." And then they like start getting the graphics ready and they start getting the script ready. And then he goes down there and he acts it out. But I mean, that stuff is very planned. And Ninja probably does the same thing.
Yeah, I would imagine.
That's the difference.
It's all fake. I hate
think
that
there's
shit.
To a certain
difference
degree. To a certain
between
degree.
streamer. Like I think Doc. I mean, I don't know all the streamers on Twitch, but I think Doc is at the forefront of his style of streaming. Like he's one of a kind, in my opinion, in comparison to other big streamers like Summit and Tim, and just all those. And Matt and I had spoke about it earlier. And Doc uses this terminology a lot, even in his own streams when he's answering questions or commenting on donations or people chat and stuff. And he has a brand there that he's sticking to, especially with that character. And you don't see a lot of people coming in there and wearing costumes and playing out somebody who, I mean, essentially a lot of that is probably his personality in there too.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see a lot of people throwing on wigs and sitting there in sunglasses for 12 hours a day, and doing the stuff like Matt's saying. And I watched an interview with him, and I think it's one of his production leads, and that Boom Replay is a lot bigger than what people think it is, and it's supposedly growing, and they're trying to create it into a new like spectator. They're building that AI to incorporate into esports and stuff to create a more user-friendly and even more user-engaging spectating service. That comb flipping up on the side and it showing that replay is only the beginning, I think, of what we're going to see come out of it. I think I know we say that they've been around for a while, but I think what we're seeing out of Doc is still in relative infancy. And whether he grows out of being a streamer, we'll see more come out of him in the gaming industry in general.
Absolutely. Oh, he's the two-time.
Oh yeah,
He had like 17.6K watching him that last time I was on Twitch. Like, it's like a lot of fucking people watching you, man. He's got a lot of influence.
It's a really cool point you made there, Josh, that he does seem like, he really is like one of the pioneers for streaming, and Ninja's probably one of those as well. The like at the forefront, like the bleeding edge of what works, what doesn't work, what you want on your streaming platform for, I guess, for Mixer and or Twitch now. And it's probably gonna come down to which service can kind of promote these people better, right? Who can, if Mixer can put Ninja in a position to succeed, or if Twitch can, they'll be fine either way. I don't think they're gonna lose too much sleep over losing Ninja. I think they have enough people to fill that hole there. But who can put their best guys like at the forefront and develop the technology, like you're saying, like the replay, and make more engaging and keep pushing forward here.
Well, this is the big question that I had, and it was if this is the first time we'll see if a big streamer can stay alive on a different platform that isn't Twitch.
I think he already broke 200 or 300,000 followers on there. I mean,
he was giving the free subs away and stuff. Yeah.
But I was going to say is I think that Doc is coming up with, like what Wolf is saying, to go along with that is we're seeing more importance in drive and presentation, because we all know that Doc is the best game player out there. I mean, you can watch Shroud and he's easily better than Doc in most games that he plays. But Doc's presentation is just phenomenal. That's going back on that brand thing. But I think when what I wanted to say was when you can go back and find the numbers, and quote me if I'm wrong here, but they said that like they're like 72% or something Twitch was holding of the viewers for the streaming community, and they lost 1% with him leaving. It went from 72 to 71 with him leaving. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at the numbers, and I can't give them to you now, I was reading an article about it, that it is a shit ton.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is a shit ton of people and numbers that they lost with him.
But they might come back. They could come back. I think it depends on how long he can go and how long they'll stay over and instead of coming back. That was my biggest question. Like, is it going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year? I don't know.
Yeah, whether he comes back at the end of this contract or resigns. But I think like what you're saying, I think there are a lot of people who will follow him, and there are a lot of people who'll just switch to another streamer. And I think a lot of people are salivating at that fact on Twitch that they, this massive, just gargantuan pool of viewers that they can pick up now.
Look at the precedent that they set here, though. Like, I know he's the only one right now, but that amount of money just to stream there, that's probably on top of anything else he makes there. I don't know if you've seen the Mixer like internet front page, but like that's all it is. It's like about Ninja and promoting him and pushing him like that. I know Twitch does the featured streams like on the front page from time to time, like it cycles through people, but I don't see them putting like a huge emphasis on any particular streamer and like pushing them to be like the face of Twitch, or anything like that. They don't really back any horse in that race, it seems like.
Right. And one thing that I want to mention too about Twitch, and I honestly I don't know that much about Mixer, so I can't comment on that. But for me lately, I know Twitch wise, like I used to watch Twitch like all the time. You know what I mean? Just on my iPad, laying in bed, whatever. But now, once your Amazon Prime subscription like runs up and you renew, it's no longer ad free on Twitch. So you have to like every time you click on a new stream, you have to watch an ad.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I've noticed that like I just don't watch Twitch as much because like I click, I have to watch a 30-second ad, and it's just like
that just happened to me.
Yeah, it just turns me off to it. So I'm wondering if Mixer, at least to start, chills out on the ads a little bit to try to capitalize on people that are pissed about that. Because me personally,
that's a good point.
when you click on a stream, when I click on a stream, like I want to start, like it like pops up and then you have a 30-second ad or a minute long ad or a 15-second ad, and like that immediately turns me off to like, all right, I'm not watching Twitch.
Well, especially somebody like Ben, he's probably watching ASMR and he goes to switch channels and he gets this booming ad.
I'm like,
is that what's going on? Yeah, I thought so.
Start crying.
Yeah, right. And what you just said there's a good point too. Like if you're channel hopping, like you know what I mean. Like okay, you want to watch somebody play League and there's like 5 people on. You want to, you know what I mean? You want to see where they're at, like if they're in queue or if they're actually in a game, and you have to watch an ad before every one. You're like, all right, fuck this. Like, I'm not doing it.
And
now
like
turns you off.
Why do I want to watch somebody that I've never watched before now too that has a low view count?
Right.
Just to watch an ad. I don't.
Exactly. Right.
You make a good point, Dave, is that Twitch, no, believe it or not, I think you can do this if you were to just bring up a browser, maybe not. You'd have to test it, but there's no way to multi-view in Twitch. I don't know about Mixer, but you can't watch. I think there are a lot of people out there who would like to watch 4 or 5 streamers at the same time. And they literally just can't. I mean, I don't know if you can open up another browser window and watch somebody else, but it's tied to your account, so I'm not sure that you really can.
Yeah.
Unless you just went in account free. But yeah, there's no platform that offers multi-viewing.
Well, maybe we'll
Twitch,
see.
You'll be watching 5 ads at the same time potentially.
Maybe we'll see Mixer or Twitch roll something like that out.
Yeah, like me personally, and I'm sure a lot of other people the same way. When I click on something and I have a full screen ad that completely blocks out what I wanted to watch for 15, 30 seconds, whatever, like that, I'm pissed. Like I'm fucking done. Like I don't want to watch that shit.
I'm not pissed, but it's so annoying.
No, like I've literally like my Twitch viewer, like I used to watch Twitch all the time. Like my viewership has gone way down as far as like hours per week. Because of that, it's infuriating.
I can't even watch TV.
I know Matt's like, let's end this, and I'm like, I want to say one more thing.
Go ahead. I was just about to end it. Good.
The thing that we keep on being surprised by these big numbers. With Epic Games with the Fortnite tournament and all the prize pools with that and everything, and then we're surprised with this. Get used to this. You know what I mean? Like it's just gonna keep happening. There's gonna be a fuck ton of money being thrown around to people because
a lot of opportunity though.
Yes, yeah, and it's just get used to this and don't be surprised. People get in there and start playing your games and live your dream.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Mixer and Twitch and these dueling platforms and coming out with a lot of features to one up another. But let's talk about another competitor in the platform scene, the Epic Game Store, one that's near and dear to my heart. This doesn't really have anything to do with them, but it's more the backlash against them. So Epic has just released an official statement denouncing the disturbing trend of harassment towards its partners. This comes in the wake of the game Ooblets from the studio Glumberland, announcing a temporary exclusivity with the Epic Game Store. Names aside, according to the studio, they've received thousands, if not tens of thousands, of hate messages in response to this exclusivity deal with Epic from their fans. And here's the official statement from Epic. We at Epic Games have often shared our views about the game business and companies in it, and we support the entire game community's right to speak freely and critically about these topics, including the topic of Epic, our products, and our store. When everyone shares their earnest views, the best ideas ultimately prevail. And then they also went on to say that there has been a trend of fake screenshots, videos, and technical analysis, as well as intimidation tactics used on those with opposing views to some of these people that are putting out these messages. So I'd love to get your thoughts here on this like harassment and just this. We've talked about this a bunch of times, and I'm just bringing it up again because I keep thinking when I don't hear about this for a few weeks that we're going to be done with this and that people are going to just stop this shit. But apparently, like, everybody is like 6 years old. Like, what is the big deal with a game going to Epic exclusively, temporarily, mind you, probably like 6 months, to get cash flow to help them make their game? What is the issue?
Well, I got a couple ooblets.
What's the name of the game and the developers, Matt? Can you tell me again?
This is pretty popular. It's ooblets from Glumberland.
Oh, okay.
You
Sorry.
sound like you're. It sounds like you're talking about like Rick and Morty or something.
It
Like a
does.
mobile game.
I'm with you here,
It's-
Matt, on that one.
I
It really it makes the whole community look bad. I think it's one thing to not like exclusivity of the Epic Game Store. It's fine not to like the practices, this, that, the other thing. There's literally no need to harass anybody, insult them verbally, otherwise, threaten violence, those kinds of things on somebody that really is just looking out for probably making the best business decision that they can in the current climate to release their video game. And why do it? It makes everybody involved in this whole gaming community thing look like you said, 6-year-olds. Like, we can't form, an argument to why we don't like these things. We have to go straight to making threats of violence and name calling and things like that. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I know
well,
I
that's-
butt heads. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems with the internet is like the being anonymous all the time. Like, people can just act like fucking assholes, and like there's no repercussion because you don't know who they are. And like people, because of the internet too, like a lot of people have like we've lost like constructive criticism or constructive arguments, and just like automatically resort to just like fuck you, you're an idiot, like you're dumb, and like you know what I mean, and like just not you're not creating a conversation that's like conductive to like fixing a problem or improving a situation. You're just like sinking to the lowest form of like arguing or just people have like lost like people just have lost the ability to like like be reasonable and like try to like be constructive to like find a solution, where it's just easier to like act like an asshole and like expect to get your way because of that.
I don't know anybody like that. Not at all.
Ah.
I can't
Uh,
think.
It's tribalism. It's still going on. It's still the Steam boys are pissed off.
It is the Steam Boys, yeah.
Mhm.
The
I know
Steam
I'm
boys.
odd man out here, and I argue with Matt and Wolf
No,
about
no,
this
I
quite
mean-
frequently with the whole Epic Games thing.
No, I don't like Epic Games.
Yeah, Ben's a
my
Steam
big
Boy.
my big it's not the I mean, because if you essentially compare it, it's no different than somebody who goes out and spends the money on an Xbox or a PlayStation, and PlayStation goes out and buys exclusivity for
Sure.
Destiny content or
Sure.
Black Ops content. There's no difference there. And yeah, there's bitching and griping on this immature level that we were just talking about. But I just don't like Tencent. I mean, if it was anybody else, I don't think I would mind. Like, I don't bitch about Origin games library. I bitch about Origin because it's EA, so, but, I don't complain about GOG or Ubi. Just, it's more about the monetization and the people who's got their fingers involved with it. But going along with what you guys said, I do agree that there's nothing better that could happen for the industry in terms of competition and support for the developers and more money, because they are going to get more money than they will out of Steam, and they will be able to turn that around and make better games or further that game along. And there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
I mean, I'm fine with people like you or anybody criticizing Epic. Like, like anybody should. But like to go out and harass a game for, like I said, trying to bolster their cash flow on a temporary deal. It's temporary. They'll probably be on Steam in 6 months. And what Epic's been doing now, and I joke around a lot about being like an Epic fanboy. I'm really not. I like both platforms. I hope they both have success. But they're giving these indie developers exclusivity deals that literally have written in them that they will give them the cash for their baseline sales. So even if the game flops, the developer will still make money from Epic. What is
amazing.
better than that? I mean, how can somebody not like that?
Well, and for me, like, it all comes back to like, why wouldn't you want more competition? Why would you shit on the new platform and just be like, I want Steam only? Like, you consume, the more competition always creates a better product for the consumer. It's just how it is.
Yeah, competition creates innovation. It's spurs on innovation, because if you don't, if you don't change, if you don't adapt, if you don't innovate, then you're gonna fucking fail because there's someone else who's doing that, hopefully. But the thing that I was just thinking of was, have we seen that innovation that we, to revisit that when, in previous podcasts, when this was all happening with Epic coming into the scene and everything, have we seen anything from Steam to innovate?
They don't need to.
Yeah, they don't need
I
to.
mean,
So now Epic doesn't need to really either.
I think that we're not allowing Epic to. Look at what we're talking about. Not sorry to interrupt you, but to literally answer your question is that we have this bullshit going on in the industry that is not allowing platforms like Epic to.
I don't think this is. I think this is just chatter. I don't think this is bar.
But I mean, if we keep harassing them, it's like what?
People are going to be less. Yeah, like Josh is saying. I'm sorry to interrupt both of you, but like Josh is saying, people are going to be less likely to go to Epic if people are going to freak out like that on them.
Flame them for it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
I think there's still people going to Epic.
I think 9 times out of 10, they'll buy it. Like the upcoming Phoenix Point game. I know a lot of people were bummed out about that being because they said that they were going to have, they were going to be on Steam and now they're not. But I'll still buy it. I really am excited for that game. I think everybody, I turned around and bought Metro the moment it came out.
Yep.
It's not going to stop me. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Tencent, and I'm not going to repeat myself here, but those people will still buy those games regardless of the platform. They'll bitch and whine about it. Yeah. Just how the gaming industry is. They're just going to create this fake drama, whine about it, and then they're going to turn around and play it.
It's in every industry, man.
It's just it's just wild. I just keep thinking we're going to get past it.
I think
here's something else,
man.
There again, what's the game that was announced E3, and it's the third one in the trilogy, and it's that Chinese, that Chinese or Japanese
Shenmue.
Oh, yeah. They were taking pre-orders on Steam, on a Kickstarter and stuff like that, and then they turn around and said, "Well, we're not going to refund those people who don't want to buy it on Epic or whatever it is that they're coming out." And I think that is BS and unfair, and that's on the developer, not Epic, but. Well, that shit's crap.
Well, Epic turned around. I think Epic paid for all of the
pre-order. Oh, did they?
I think I think that was the one that.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Epic. Granted, you're right. Like their practices, some of the practices of the people, affiliated with them aren't great. You can criticize that all day, but I don't think there's any reason to take the conversation and run it through the mud like that.
I think we need another person to slip into here so we can create some real competition rather than this fake.
I think they're there. They're coming. Xbox has got theirs coming up. Ubisoft have theirs coming up. We're going to see them. There's going to be more platform.
There's other players. They're just
they're not going to be free like Epic and Steam are, which is a big thumbs down for me. But we are going to see, and that might lead to places like Epic and Steam starting to charge people. We may see that happen, but I'm glad that there is the competition in the market, like you guys said.
Let's wrap today with the new champion that was released for Heroes of the Storm. It's Qhira, and you may not remember Qhira from World of Warcraft or Diablo because she wasn't there. It's an original hero made for the game. They didn't pull from any of Blizzard's very deep character roster, which in my mind was a very big mistake. The fan base overall, it seems like the hot subreddit and anything that I've seen about this is super negative. And I'm a little bit negative here too. Just for context, Blizzard had canceled the competitive scene for HOTS back in December 2018, and a lot of the dev team had moved away, and now the players only get a new champion, I'd say once every 6 months. So when you wait for 6 months and you get Qhira, you're not the happiest camper in the world. So I guess my big question here, and this might be like a little doom, but are they purposely trying to kill this game or what?
Well, isn't that lady, you guys might know her name, she left the development team, right? For HOTS.
I heard something about that.
Yeah, somebody had just left, Josh. Yeah.
One of their big lead developers, I think, just got moved to something else or left.
With the state of that game anyways.
But from what I understand, a lot of the people who are fans of HOTS were fans of her. She did a lot of those characters from those games. justice in their iteration in HOTS. But I think Matt had tweeted this, and I think he made a very good point. And it is, I don't want to take away from him from saying this, but why add that character in this game's lifespan? You know, why not add a character that people are going to bring people back for, you know, like that, you know, we always go back to this nostalgia thing. Like, wow, they added that character from this game. Why add this new character? Like, has it given you guys any incentive to get back on and play, check this new character out?
No, not at all.
But
No.
okay, well, here's the thing with me with this fucking character. You guys are getting all worked up. Wow.
There we go.
My thing is like it's kind of from my perspective, it's kind of like, hey, we're gonna invest time into this game. You know what I mean? Like they could have just thrown a Blizzard character in there, but they're kind of saying something by putting the HOTS character in there as well. With the HOTS lore saying like, hey, this is gonna be here for a while. You know, we're not just, or there's no thought to it whatsoever. I don't know, but
I like that spin and I like the optimism.
Yeah, same.
But everybody knows that game's dying. It's not like it's a secret. I mean, HOTS isn't going to be around in 3 years. Like, I don't need to I'm like shocking anybody's world here, but the 5 players that are still on the damn game, but it's going to be gone. I just don't see why they would do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like the positivity. I like the optimism.
Yeah,
Maybe you're right. Maybe that was the message, but fuck, dude.
Yeah, but like if you're trying to like draw people back in or still make a little bit of money off the game, if you release like an iconic WoW character or something, there's going to be people that are going to download the game again and play at least for a little bit to be their favorite character or like a cool character from Warcraft.
And most likely buy skins too.
Yeah, right, exactly. Instead of fucking, you know what I mean, some made up Nexus chick.
I like my
Her name's Qhira, Dave.
I like my perspective.
Whatever.
They're coming back, baby.
I think, Ben, you made a really good point there.
And like they already had a Nexus character with Orphea, and it's just like, I don't know. It just
I don't like it. Stupid.
Like you already have.
I've never even seen her in a game.
You already have like an established, like, character base that people like already know about. Why the fuck wouldn't you piggyback off that instead of like creating something new from the ground up that nobody knows anything about?
I'm telling you, man. I swear they want to. I swear they want to just get rid of the game so they can stop putting time into it.
I give up. It's stupid.
It was the same. It was the same thing with Orphea, right? Like they released her at BlizzCon.
Yeah,
that was like the big thing. Like no one knows who she is. No one gives a shit. The game was already like the writing was on the wall at that point in time. What was that November of last year?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? And especially at an event like that, it just in general at any time. Like why aren't you putting?
Well,
your best foot
who do
forward?
we want?
I don't know.
Okay, and then just for comparison, before we get too far off. Okay, so BlizzCon last year they announced Orphea, right?
Yeah.
No one everybody's like, oh, cool, but like nobody really gave a fuck. The year before that, who did they announce? Alex Straza and Hanzo. Which year do you think people were more excited about?
Right.
Yeah.
Hanzo and Alex Straza. Everybody's going fucking ape shit and like, you know what I mean? And like people were pumped up.
Yeah, they had a cinematic where like both of them were interacting together. And
Yeah, right.
Sick.
Exactly. And then you go from that to fucking some little girl that fucking came out of nowhere that has no fucking background.
I don't know. Yeah, it's stupid.
When you guys told me that they added Imperius, I immediately wanted to get on check.
Yeah,
I don't even particularly, I'm probably out of the
Diablo
5 of
boy.
us the least favorite HOTS player among us.
I'd say definitely, yeah.
And even bringing that character on here was like, yeah, I'll play. I'm downloading it right now. I'm installing it. I want to play Imperius, and I bought him right there on the spot. Because I wanted to play that character in that game. So I agree with you, Dave. Like, why?
Yeah. No one is getting hyped for a made-up character that has no lore or background. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for like Blizzard, who already has all these fucking characters that have years and years and years of lore and like following and people like loving the character. It just why would you waste development time? Because like especially that you have to build it from the ground up. You have a fresh start.
Yep.
I'll tell you why. Because it's a
skin and
testament
ability already.
to the length that they're willing to go to keep the game alive.
I think people are probably excited to try her out on the competitive scene. Oh wait, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Oof.
Let's
get
wrap the
us
show.
outta here.
Let's wrap the
Get us
show
outta
there.
here.
I think that was my favorite show that we've done. I had a lot of fun. I think that was a really, really good conversation. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for listening as well. If you enjoy this show and you listen to us every week, let us know. Give us some feedback in the comments, or if you really want to help us out, leave us an iTunes review. That really goes a long way, and would really appreciate it. But if you listen on Spotify or iTunes or any of the other major podcast platforms, we post these live VODs on YouTube. If you're into that and want to see our bright and beautiful faces. But other than that, thank you again, and we hope to see you next week.
Let us know what you think of Adam and Ben's shirts.